So we'll begin with Karen McDevitt. Karen is our new Glover principal. Karen graduated from Skidmore College with a Bachelor in Education. She went on to Leslie College to earn her master's, graduate work at Bridgewater, and a very interesting CAGS program out of Boston University, all over the South Shore, in getting her certification. Karen began her teaching career in Ipswich, up on the North Shore, as an intermediate classroom teacher, and then she earned a very esteemed reputation as a classroom teacher in the Cohasset Public Schools, a little secret, working for a very talented principal in the Duxbury Schools. Next to me, Janet Sheehan. And I know Ms. McDevitt was well sought after across the South Shore for principalships, and she decided that the Glover was the match, she can put it in her own words, the school that she was looking for, and we're very, very pleased to have you here. I should also add for the viewing public, we have noted in my email blasts that all of these individuals went through 2 screening committees, a screening committee of parents. I always say I don't pick Mary Gormley's favorite parents, they all are, but I go to the PTO and the boosters, and they send forward parents from FAME, the Tucker Site Council, and then we go to Margaret Gibbons, the head of the union, and she sends us teachers to sit on these committees. Next, if you just acknowledge who you are in the group, Eric Cargill. Eric is our new, very pleased to introduce athletic director. Eric began his career, we had something in common. I have relatives in upstate New York, and he has a strong foundation, and he was brought up in upstate New York, and then he taught in the Canton Public Schools, athletic director at King Philip High School, and then a long and very decorated career since 2004 in the Hopkinton Public Schools as the athletic director. Eric's notoriety and reputation goes before him, from Athletic Director of the Year for the MIAA, Boston Globe, Sportsmanship Awards, and since Eric's been here, he has made himself, since mid-July, a part of the Milton Public Schools, and engrossed himself in the athletic program. So we want to welcome you to the Milton Public Schools, and this is a very, very important position. Next, and Chairman Walker will be discussing late tonight for the viewing public, this was one position, the athletic director and the health PE coordinator. And over the years, historically, it was 2 positions. Then through budget cuts, we combined the position, and the school committee recognized that it was very important to have 2 positions. So we're very happy to welcome Noel Vigu to this position. Noel began his career in the Ashland Middle High School, off to Quabbin Regional Middle High School, work at the Boston University Athletic Enhancement Center, very interesting work, all in health, wellness, and just what we're looking for. Work as an adjunct faculty member for sports management program at Mount Ida, and Noel has had a very esteemed career in the Native Public Schools. And he was everything we're looking for in a health and wellness. He was a physical education teacher, the founder of the Wellness Summit, Strength and Conditioning, and he is also the vice president-elect, no? Yes. Of your professional organization in the state. And so for the athletic director in health and wellness, this is a new beginning for the Milton Public Schools, and we are very, very excited. Welcome, Noel. Next, a familiar face, but in a new position. We're thrilled to welcome Kat DeRoche to her new position. Kat DeRoche has wore many hats in the Milton Public Schools, and she began her career in the Boston Public Schools as a kindergarten teacher, and then she joined the Milton Public Schools as a 3rd grade teacher, Title I coordinator, Title I reading specialist, and so matching her skills, she is now a .5 elementary coordinator, wearing the hats of math and language arts and reading at the Tucker, and the remaining 1.5 of her 1.0 position, she's in a Title I position. And so Kat has been a strong contributing member, understanding literacy. I want to compliment you as well as anyone I've ever worked with, and she's at the Tucker School. Kat began her career at Emmanuel College. She went on to earn her master's at Suffolk University in the administration of higher education, and then she did her internship along with Don Sykes and other Milton Public Schools teachers at Curry College. So welcome welcome Kat to that position. And last but not least, another familiar face in the Milton Public Schools, Don Sykes. Don Sykes, I remember the day we hired you. It seems like yesterday. Don Sykes came from Canada. Don Sykes earned her bachelor's at the University of Alberta, Canada. She went on to earn her master's. She has a very strong educational background in San Diego. And then Dawn, too, went through the Curry program to earn her certification in administration. Dawn, which members of this committee can speak to, was the very talented middle school choral director. She's been an elementary middle school teacher, a high school chorus and music teacher, and she came in. She is a familiar face, but she was here all summer, as were these other individuals, securing what was one of the best openings of school we ever had. And as I wrote to the administrators, you should tell the story. It's only because you did all of that work and you were so prepared. So Dawn Sykes has stepped into the position of K through 12, pre-K through 12, music director, and we tout it as the longest title in the Milton Public Schools, and director of family and consumer studies. And she has done so with grace and ability, and these 5 members are enhancing our leadership team and going to bring us to new heights. And again, on behalf of the district, I want to welcome you. I wanted the school committee to be able to connect the names with the faces. And now if you travel across town, you'll be recognized, and people will recognize you as strong new administrators in the Milton Public Schools. So welcome, and I would turn it now over to the school committee.
Anyone?
Okay, I'll speak. Well, welcome and thank you guys so much. I had questions on, let's see, I'll start with, well, first of all, I guess I'll start with Karen. How are things at Glover? Yeah? Yeah. Take the mic and you can just and pass it around. I would just take it out, Karen, it's easier. And then you can pass it to each other.
I think it's the best place on earth.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, I've only worked in 3 schools because I've been in all of these places for a long time, but it's the most amazing group of parents and students and teachers I've ever worked with. And every single day there's something new that happens that just renews my conviction that it's the best place on earth. Sorry guys, but I think it is.
That's great. That's great to hear. And then I wanted to ask, I just think it would be good for the viewing public. Because it's new that we voted on, and we're all very happy that we were able to divide the athletic director and the PE health position, especially because of so much feedback that we got from principals and the administration. So for the viewing public, if they're watching now or later, just to let them know that it's divided so that the athletic director can really have more time to really focus on that. And then with the whole PE health issue, and I'm wondering if you can talk about a little bit about what your goals might be for this year as far as expanding that, broadening it, fine-tuning it, that whole curriculum, now that we definitely have the director just for that.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think one of the things I always start off with asking a question, would you want to live to be 100 years old? And I mean, it's an easy question. We all answer yes. And to get to that point, health and wellness, I mean, that's where it begins and ends. And so for us to be, well-educated and to continue working through that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it really starts with the foundation in health, good health behaviors, good health decisions, and making those decisions throughout our lives. And so for me, coming into a new district, that's something that my belief and passion lies within that health and wellness realm. So I want to know and gather information from my staff and parents and administration and gather all that information and see where we are and where we can go for the future. And that's really what I'm looking forward to as an entry plan right now. And I know there are some issues that, that parents and administration would be looking at last year and that we'd want to address immediately, and that's something I'm certainly up for the task to do. And I'd love that 3 years from now, and I look back and, I'd love to set a goal to be a nationally recognized school that, similar to what I had in my previous school in Natick, that we were hitting benchmarks that were above and beyond the standards of Massachusetts. That's something that I feel that we could certainly achieve. I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored. It's something that I really look forward to being a part of the community to help our students and staff to be healthy.
That's great. And then just one final. For Kat, again, for people at home, as far as a more of an administrative position, can you explain what a team chair is? Because, not everybody out there, they know what an athletic director is, but maybe not a team chair. Okay, thank you.
So, serving as the...
I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
What is
Curriculum coordinator.
curriculum, I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's okay.
It's-
It's like alphabet soup.
Yeah,
We have a lot of names.
sorry.
Yeah.
But even that, not
Sure.
everyone understands exactly what you're going to be doing.
So, curriculum coordinator, to me, and I think there are many different ways you could live out the position, but formally it's overseeing the curriculum for English language arts, mathematics, and social studies. Excuse me. And that means providing teachers with curriculum materials, ensuring that messages are consistent across the district for expectations, ensuring that students have what they need, which should be covered with the teachers, but it's important to look at the whole picture. Personally, I really see it as an opportunity to serve the students of Milton through the teachers. And I think, I walk through classrooms and it's fantastic to know every kid's name, and that's something that a goal that I have to get to know all the students. But first and foremost, it's supporting the teachers. And I think that's a way to leverage the time and limited time we have with the kids. Days go by really quickly, and the best way to reach all the students is to make sure teachers have what they need and that they have sacred teaching time. And I really see that as a role of a curriculum coordinator, in addition to working with all facets of the school, regardless if it's ELA or math curriculum. But that's how I would
great.
generally describe it.
Great, thank you so much. Sorry. I've been up since 5:30, so
Believe me, there's no judgment here. We're all on the last leg.
Well, welcome everyone. It's actually quite heartening. The business that I'm in is human resources, and one of the hallmarks of a high-performing organization is when you can promote talent from within and also recruit talent externally. And it looks like we've done a great job of that. Every single one of you is in a position that's critical in one way or another. So, welcome to the team. I'm sure you'll be hearing from us, and we'll be hearing from you in various capacities as the year goes on. But we're excited about this year, and I'm sure you are as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Very briefly, as I've written to the school committee and put out in our blast, we had a very successful opening of school. We do still have transportation issues. I want to recognize the patience of the parents and guardians in the community. We had 10 administrators ride the buses yesterday. We made some changes today. Yesterday, we introduced 358 free full-day kindergarten students, so we were, I think, overly optimistic yesterday that all of the issues would be solved. But Dr. Pavlicek and I and Jake Smith know every route, every stop, and almost every name. And our goal is by the end of the week to have transportation, all of the issues solved. The parents and guardians in this community have responded on registration, re-registration, the lunch program, with their school nurse, who we just met with one of our school nurses before this meeting. There's another important evening coming up. The registration for the after-school music lessons begin on September 13th from 7 to 8:30 right here at Milton High School. This is for students beginning in grades 4. On the front of the website, I would encourage parents and guardians, we will publicize these dates, very important nights to get to your schools. All of the open houses are scheduled in September, and 3 important nights to schedule. Member Kristen Bagley-Jones could not be with us tonight, but she would be ringing one of us if I didn't mention to keep October 4th free. There's a special community event sponsored with a partnership with the Milton School Committee's Health and Wellness Subcommittee, the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Committee, and BID Milton. And there's also, so that's on October 4th, to circle that night. There's another night that Lori Stillman has asked me to publicize tonight, youth substance misuse in Milton. On September 19th, in the Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital Nangeroni Center at 7 o'clock, there's the monthly meeting of the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, and they're putting out a tremendous amount of data they've gathered from the schools, data from the community, and they are giving us an opportunity to preview that presentation. A tremendous, I would say, 1 or 2 years' worth of work going into this initial data presentation. And then always a highlight in the Milton Public Schools in the town of Milton, Celebrate Milton, Sunday, October 2nd, at the Pierce Middle School from 12 to 4. So I would ask all to circle that, and a note that I'm sure Chairman Walker, our next meeting will be on September 21st.
Correct.
21st. Thank you.
On that Substance Abuse Coalition event, who would we be sending to that?
I'm sending, that's a great question. Michelle Cruiser, when she was vice president.
She could have been vice president.
I'll let her know. She, vice principal, she was an outstanding representative for the district, and it's very interesting you asked that. Lori Stillman and I have been discussing this because she brought back the information. She was an outstanding voice for the Milton Public Schools, but she appropriately shared upon her return. Last year, Principal Jett served, so we're deciding whether our new athletic director, and too bad they weren't still here, and health PE coordinator would be a valuable team with one principal to go to those meetings, to represent the Milton Public Schools, and then bring the information back to us. So I would think Lori Stimmel had asked you to. She has been communicating with me because, and I'm proud, and we should be pleased, they think that school representation is that important.
Great.
Thank you.
So before I move to the chair's report, Maura, do we have someone for citizen speak?
She does. She would like to speak. I was trying to explain to her how it works.
Well, so what I'm going to do, we do have a citizen speak item again at the end, which is number 13. I'm going to move that up so that she doesn't have to wait. So if you'd like to come up. If you would, just give us your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Lisa Borrella, and I just came to the Milton area from Randolph. And I'm here because I would like to be involved in the school committee.
In the school committee?
I mean, involved,
Okay.
knowing about what's the planning of the school. I have 2 boys, which hopefully be in the Pierce Middle School anytime, but just come to shine light and see what's going on in the committee, be a part.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome. I hope you find these meetings as interesting as we do, but we'll see. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as Superintendent Gormley mentioned, we are now ready to request the committee's approval for the PE Health Director position. You do have a memo from Dr. Pavlicek which explains how we will cover the cost this year. As you know, the original plan was to look for an internal candidate with a stipend. That didn't work out, but it probably worked out for the better. We've got someone who's obviously very well qualified. But Finance Subcommittee spent a couple of discussions trying to make sure that we had a strategy for how we would cover the cost of that, since that was not budgeted initially. So what you have here is the various ins and outs, or overages and underages, or savings that Dr. Pavlicek has been able to identify. The most important part of the column is that the excess deficit number is 0. That's what we wanted to make sure about. So, given that, I would move that we approve the funding of the new PE Health Director position.
Second.
Moved by Walker, seconded by Dr. Craighead. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We've also included the fiscal 18 budget calendar. This is our attempt to describe the parallel budget planning processes that we'll be engaged in as we were last year. The red type indicates what I call the detailed budget planning process. The blue type, the high level, what I would call level service budget planning process, with a target date of getting to the selectmen a level service plus increased costs for this year figure, for fiscal 18 figure by October 1st. We've invited Town Administrator Anne Marie Fagan and Town Accountant Amy Dexter to join us for one of our meetings to talk about this schedule. I've had a brief discussion with Selectman Tom Hurley, and we anticipate that we'll use the same approach, which was to use a budget subcommittee consisting of Dr. Pavlicek, Amy Dexter, and Anne Marie Fagan to develop some high-level budget figures for planning purposes. In the meantime, in parallel, we'll be developing the detailed budget process that will culminate early December. So this is just the schedule that we will be holding ourselves to, and that you can hold us to. And you'll be able to see here where the Finance Subcommittee will be doing review and approval, and where we'll be coming back to the School Committee for review and approval. So we just wanted to make sure you had this in hand. It doesn't require a vote, but it's just information.
Can I say, this is great, so thank you for the breakdown and the detail. And I know Ms. Bagley-Jones is not here, but I could probably speak on her behalf, that it's great that it's so detailed that we know where these things will be at, especially that with regard to having to pull together a contingent and non-contingent budget as well. Be great.
Right, and on that point, I'm hoping that we will have free cash certified by mid-October. That's my hope.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, that we can start this discussion about contingent, non-contingent much earlier,
Yes.
and with a little more deliberateness than we did last year.
Yes, yeah, that's, I mean, the other question I did have is, when you talk about the subcommittee with Dr. Pavlicek, I mean, and I expressed this at the joint meetings that we had with the Warren and the Selectmen, that, I mean, I think that we do we do very good due diligence to work with them, communicate with them, but I felt like, I truly feel this way, that things were not ironed out early enough in a year that's going to be a contingent, and that there will need to be a contingent and non-contingent budget, and that most likely there will be, a vote to have an override, and the community at large needs to know, we need to know as early as possible, what number we would be looking at, and we need to go out, as we always say, like January and February, to our school community to really educate them about it. And, it's a good thing that we got another year in, but, again, correct me if I'm wrong, will this be 8 years since the last override, if there is one? 9 years? I can't remember. But
2000, last one was 2009.
Yeah. So 8 years. So, there's a lot of education that needs to be done to the parent community about what an override is, about what Proposition 2.5 is. And, we need, a lot of that starts in the schools, and we need to really have that done and firmed up, like you said, Chairman Walker, earlier this year than
Right.
last year.
Couldn't agree more, and that's my plan.
All right.
Okay. As I said, I wanted to say a few words about this fiscal 17 budget calendar, which you also have. Did I say budget calendar? School calendar. And it has to do with the discussions about school site councils, and trying to make sure that the discussions that we have with the site councils are substantive and engaging, which sometimes they are, but that we have them early enough that they might be able to influence the budget process. If we agree that that's an objective, it looks to me like the schedule takes the discussions much further into the school year than we would like. The Tucker's on the 21st of December, which is, first of all, too close to the holiday. The Milton High School Site Council is January 4th, which is too close after the holiday. The Glover's not until April. Cunningham's not until May. And the Pierce, right, Pierce is in November. So I'd just like to flag that and perhaps spend some time with Assistant Superintendent Sheehan and Superintendent Gormley and see if we can come up with a strategy that might address that. But, Ms. Varela?
Can I just throw out, just for a recommendation to ponder that, I know that when the site councils present, we've talked about this at our, what do we have there? My brain again. Retreat, thank you. That it's a great thing to be able to get more feedback from the site council, but with regard to the fact that they do like to present, their overall goals and their achievements of the year and all that, would it be worthwhile to, I don't know, even to bring maybe, 2 at a time earlier in the year? And they may not have to do a full presentation like they do, but if they could come to the table with issues that they feel are areas of concern, it might not be that hard to pull something like that together, as opposed to their big, giant, kind of yearly presentation. I don't know if that's something, instead of having to cram it all in, because we want all that info, that intel earlier on, where we could just ask them to present, those issues. So like you say, Chairman Walker, we can play into that, especially when finance meets and saying, okay, these are issues, where's the budget, what do we choose, this is the feedback we received. It might be easier to just do a smaller thing, like maybe have Tucker and Glover together, Cunningham College, I don't know, and Pierce and the high school together, and that would be like 3 segments, but just something to think about, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's just for further thought. We'll be back to you shortly with a proposal.
So when,
Ms. Eberhardt?
what would be a good time frame then? So if you
Well,
wanted to hear from all 6
If,
schools?
so, this is aggressive, but if the budget will be finalized by December,
Right.
then it has to be before then.
Yeah.
That'd be the next couple of meetings.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, so that's what I mean.
exactly.
Right.
And to your point,
But
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Donahue.
I was going to say, and to your point, it might not have to be their traditional annual,
Yeah, exactly.
the full show.
Yep.
But if we could get an executive summary discussion, it would be helpful.
Right. but I don't want to solve the problem tonight. I just want to let
Yeah,
the
just-
superintendent tell us how she might solve the problem. Moving on to Finance Subcommittee. You have the fourth quarter report for approval, and I would like to thank my colleagues on the Finance Subcommittee, Dr. Craighead and Ms. Eberhardt. We worked on this for several meetings with Dr. Pavlicek, and also thanks to Dr. Pavlicek and his team. This is a very, very important report because this is effectively our closeout. For those of you who are familiar with the private sector, you close out the year. This is our closeout report. So it highlights a number of important things, both in the memo that Dr. Pavlicek has prepared, but also if you look at the detail, some places where we will need to think perhaps differently about what to budget where, how much to budget. Unfortunately, it's not in time for the fiscal 17, so you close out 16, it's not in time for the fiscal 17 budget, which is long ago planned, but it is useful information for fiscal 18 planning. So I would encourage you to read it carefully and certainly get back to any of us with thoughts or ideas that you have about budget priorities or what this suggests we might do differently. So with that, I would move approval of the fourth quarter report.
Second.
Moved by Walker, seconded by Dr. Craighead. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Next, we have approval of vendor warrants. I don't believe I reviewed this warrant, but I know that Ms. Eberhardt and Dr. Craighead did, so if you would, could you handle this motion?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to move approval of the vendor warrant for September 1st, 2016.
Did it have a number? Did it have a number?
It's on here.
Oh, I didn't
220,000?
see
Oh,
that page,
I have
sorry.
the motion page. Here it is. Okay. Here it is. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 9 dated September 1st, 2016, in the amount of $220,733.55.
Second.
Moved by Craighead, seconded by Varela.
All in favor? I've never done it before.
It's unanimous.
Okay, great.
That was
Do you
good.
want the
One
next
more.
one? Okay. Motion to approve warrant number 10 dated September 8th, 2016, in the amount of $98,340.78.
Second.
Discussion?
Moved by
sorry.
Craighead, seconded by
Sorry.
Varela.
Today's the 7th, correct? And,
This warrant right here dated tomorrow.
okay,
Oh,
It's
okay.
that one,
okay.
I had the
So,
But it's dated the 8th.
has
Yeah,
anyone,
it's dated the next day.
has
Okay.
anyone seen that?
No.
Two so far.
That's the one you had at the.
All right, maybe, yeah.
So why don't
Yeah.
we defer that till the next meeting?
We're having the motion, so now what do we do? We're deferring.
You could withdraw it.
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Transportation and Traffic Safety Subcommittee report.
Okay, so we had I'd call it a back-to-school meeting at the end of August to kind of touch base on the upcoming school year. And we had a fairly good turnout. We had the chief, the new chief, Chief King, came to the meeting, along with Lieutenant Mark Albert, who's head of transportation, who works with our committee quite a bit. And of course, Jake Smith, our director of transportation, along with Superintendent Gormley and Assistant Superintendent Pavlicek. So we had a couple of our school reps come who are exiting, and we have new people in place in every school except Cunningham, and that's being worked on. We hope to have someone in place from Cunningham by our next meeting, which is September 20th. But We now do have, I'm excited about that, some new fresh faces and returning ones as well. So just some reminders that I've reached out, and Jana Linhart, who is our partner from MassDOT, is going to continue this year. She works with us on our Safe Routes to School and our Walk to School days, helping us educate our reps from the various schools. So she's going to be back, and at our September 20th meeting, Jake Smith was there and gave confirmation and update that our Safety Patrol is going to be back in action this year.
Excellent.
And that the applications and essays will be going out by the end of the month, and we hope to have our 5th grade Safety Patrol reps chosen and put in place in October this year, which will be nice because it wasn't rolled out into the spring last year, so that's good to hear. We are fine-tuning and at our next meeting with Jana, all of the safe route, the recommended safe route maps that were put in place and done with last year's committee along with former Chief Wells. And we're going to fine-tune those and post them up on the website in the next month or two. Once those are ironed out, we're going to go over that at our next meeting. We confirmed, which I think I've already reiterated, but we are going to try to make Wednesdays, every Wednesday, walk to school day. Well, the weather's good, and even in the wintertime, walk/bike to school day. And we're going to focus on the first Wednesday of each month to be kind of a bigger prize day, and ask the transportation representatives to work with the PTOs. It seems to be a big deal to walk to school or bike to school, and you get a prize. So, but it does kind of encourage more people to do it, that kind of thing. So I'm going to have Jana speak to the new reps at the next September 20th meeting to kind of go over that a little bit more and work on outreach together with them. We spoke to, which I'm going to hand over to Dr. Pavlicek, there's a new high school traffic pattern at the high school, which I went out to most people, but it would be good to just speak to, again, if people are watching, because it's for everyone who comes up here during the day of going in and out. So, Dr. Pavlicek, want to explain that?
As you enter the high school coming down Guile Road from Canton Avenue, access to the spots behind the field house entrance has been limited somewhat. We've put in 25 new parking spaces, angle parking across from the field house entrance, and as a result, that's now a one-way section. So coming in from Guile Road, you can take a right, go along the right side of the school to the back. You have the opportunity there to take the U-turn around the parking area and come back out that way, or cross in front of the field house doors, but that area is now one way in front of the field house doors. And it's one way around to the side of the building. If you were to attempt to come in the other side of the building, on the left side of the building, and try to go to the back, you would be confronted with some Jersey barriers across part of the parking lot with a big, very prominent "Do Not Enter" sign, as it's a one-way coming at you at that point. So the access to those parking spaces, basically by the Channing Lane gate out to Gulliver Street, are only accessed by coming around behind the field house and going out that way. To try to keep the traffic, when we put in angle parking, we had to really make that one way, and it's much safer anyway. There was just too much back and forth in a very narrow space by that field house door. So it was really an effort to clean it up.
Yeah, we're hoping that will be a huge improvement with regards to safety, because there was many complaints from parents last year with regard to the fact that, you know, that field house entrance is the entrance and exit for all the afternoon sports, all of the music lessons. You know, there's, you know, it would make me a nervous wreck every time I had to be up there. So I'm really happy to hear that we'll be doing that, and major kudos to Dr. Pavlicek, who's really worked aggressively on that, putting that in place. And I'm hoping that, you know, it's going to be a lot safer with that traffic pattern, you know, that one way. So that's a big deal, I feel.
And can I just say that phase 2 of this, we've had Bill Ritchie order some signs for some additional no parking signs and no parking on the grass signs for down by Brooks Field. And we intend to put better signage down there to have people from parking up on the lawn and follow it by some enforcement. We've already talked to the police chief about it, because that's another dangerous spot where you have cars parked on both sides of Lower Guile Road
Exactly.
and kids running through to the ball fields
Yep.
and so forth. We can't control the lower area down to the lower field because that's Parks and Rec property, but we can have some control over what happens on Guile Road, which is ours.
And it was great to have both Chief King and Lieutenant Alba there because, again, they've been great partners to us, and that's an area of concern of safety. I know with Dr. Pavlicek definitely expressing concern over that in the past year or two. So we're hoping to clean that up and make that a much safer area.
May I?
Yeah.
May I? Jim Walker, is that all right?
Yes.
I would be negligent if I didn't recognize the Milton Police. Every year, the Milton Police partner, well, they're partners with us every day, but for the beginning of school, Dr. Pavlicek, Assistant Superintendent, and she and I were at every school assisting with the traffic, and the police were there. And so they provided for the safety. And the police have taught us that if you're out there and you work on the traffic patterns, they work. But in my history in the Milton Public Schools, Ms. Varela, nobody's ever taken on the traffic. And Member Varela and her committee actually improved the traffic pattern and made it safer at the Pierce School. So that took months of work, and Sheila Varela and Mark Alba and Karen Spalding deserve the credit. And then now with Dr. Pavlicek and James Jett and Bill Ritchie, the high school, and now Sheila Varela and her transportation committee are going to take on the Glover.
We're going to take the Glover
Yeah.
on.
Oh, my.
That's my
So-
closing. This year, our big
So-
focus is the Glover.
Good luck.
They take a lot of parent input. They spend time there. They watch the patterns. Officer Alba and Sheila Varela.
Lieutenant Alba.
Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Partner, and they work with the schools. So I just want to say that that's really important work. And when it's done, it provides for safety, and it takes so much off the building principals. So I've seen you in action, and I've seen it work, and I can't wait for Glover to be the recipient.
Yeah, so that,
And Cunningham Collycott is solved, and then Sheila Varela said they'll take on, there are a few issues at the Tucker too.
yep. So, but it really seems to be that Glover, that's what I was just going to close with, that, I mean, we take concerns from all areas at our monthly meetings, of course, but the Glover really has a lot of issues that need to be ironed out, and I'm hoping to work with Principal McDavitt and, Lieutenant Alba, and I know Chief King said he'd be happy to be a part of that as well. So there's a lot of issues that need to be ironed out there, so it's going to be an area of focus. So we have a lot, and one final thing, we also did have a visit, and we're going to work with and partner with the Milton Bike Advisory Committee. We had the chair of that come, where they also want to work with the Safe Routes group on, I mean, it's Safe Routes to School, so it's walking and it's biking. So even though they're more of a community-wide situation, but it's to engage children and families to bike more and the routes and the patterns. So we have a lot going on for the upcoming year, so should be good.
Thank you.
Chairman Walker?
Yes.
So two things. I'm glad about the high school because I don't drop off anymore and pick up from the school, but that area every morning scared me to death, especially because the preschool parents would park their cars and walk their children in across 2 lanes of traffic. And whenever I would drive over there, Mike would be like, please don't start complaining again about the traffic over here. So thank you for that. And the second thing about the prizes, this is so funny because we dropped Timothy off at school on Saturday, and so he left his lanyards at home, and he was looking for like a keychain or something to put his key on, and he pulled out of his backpack one of those, the one you kind of slide on your thing,
Spirally.
and on the thing is a walk to school. He got it at the Glover. I'm not kidding you. Remember those days when they gave us prizes for walking to school? This is one of them. So there you go. They last.
Yeah.
And are
Good to
kept
hear.
many years later, I suppose, but.
So thank you for that report from, I might add, the award-winning transportation safety.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Dr. Craig?
Superintendent Gormley pretty much beat me to the punch on this one, but I was going to ask if you'd had any feedback about the first few days at Glover, because things are not entirely finished there. There's much less parking there than there used to be, and frankly, I don't, the situation right now seems untenable
Yes.
to me, simply because I encounter it on a daily basis. So I was just wondering if you'd gotten feedback to
Yes,
this
I
point.
have.
You have?
Yes, I
Yes. Okay.
So we're on that.
And I will say that I think it's great to put in sidewalks on that, opposite side of the street that were never there on Brook. But that's also taking parking
it's-
away,
makes
and
it-
so there are gives and takes with everything. And
yep,
I think it's
yep.
going to be a real challenge for the Transportation Committee to deal with this issue, but I'm really happy that you're going to take it on.
Yeah, and just to that point too, which I'm not speaking to, but I also want to talk about DPW works with us as well, because it's everybody. It's DPW, it's the police, it's us, and everyone really has been very amicable and, willing to work. So, yeah, the Glover, we're well aware of there's many concerns there. So we'll tackle it and we'll see where we come out, okay?
Great.
Thank you. So before I introduce Dr. Donahue and ask him to update you on where we are on strategic planning, I'd like to move to change the name of the Long Range Planning Advisory Subcommittee to the Strategic Planning Subcommittee, which would resolve perhaps only my own confusion about what the name of this subcommittee is, but I think that's simpler, and I think that's what we're doing.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much.
I think somewhere former Chair Zulis's ears just perked up, too.
Probably. He's got other things on his mind
He
right now, I
does,
would
yeah.
think, but
All right, so, if I may.
please.
So the Strategic Planning Committee, so tonight's discussion is to introduce the packet that you have in front of you. My hope is that you'll take it home and read it and look at it, and we can come back maybe at our next meeting and have a discussion if there are things that people would like to discuss. But by way of overview, the purpose of this committee, which you can see on the first page here, was essentially to look at our district from a curriculum standpoint and to see where we are and where we are going and think about where we should be going. And to take all of that and produce a plan, or at least some actionable steps. And our initial discussions centered around the previous efforts, which sort of got off to a rocky start when there was an RFP that was put out, and the price attached to it was a little higher than people expected. We looked at our neighboring districts and our peer districts and what they had done, and decided to forge our own path. So as you read through this packet of information sort of describing the process, I think it's very helpful to, personally, I think it's very helpful to read the text that describes the process with the illustrations at the back of the packet sort of side by side. I think it provides a nice visual roadmap for what we're describing. And my hope is that at the end of this, we're going to have a phenomenal plan and some action steps that will guide us in terms of curriculum for the next several years. And it will be easy to access and easy to update and transparent, and really move us further into the 21st century where we belong. Would any of my colleagues on the subcommittee, do they have anything to add? Or?
Only to complement the what I would call the parent expert members, Spencer Blasdale, Michael Middleton, and Steve Paxia. They've just been fabulous in terms of being process overseers and helping us to structure this in a way, one, that was cost-effective, but more importantly, that I think will be, deliver the results we've been looking for quite a long time. And the superintendent, just to give you a sense of how much interest there is, we are, as you'll read in here, we're going to be forming work groups in various areas, and the superintendent sent out a memo describing the process, but also asking for volunteers, and almost immediately had more volunteers than we need. So I think everyone's excited about this process. And I think, as Dr. Donahue said, it will help us to figure out where we should be going. And I think it's what I like to call structured thinking about the future, and that's incredibly valuable now and will serve us well going forward.
And I have to say, one of the things that I really like about this process is, as you read through it, you know, we had several options in terms of how to approach this, whether to get a consulting group involved or what have you, but I really like how this really utilizes the resources of our district and our community, and gives us as the school committee and the schools a chance to really sort of mold the process and move it forward. And it's not something that we simply hand off to consultants and then, you know, they give us something back, you know, 6 to 12 months later. I really like the level of engagement at all levels of the schools in this process.
If I might.
Yes.
So along with Chairman Walker and Member Donahue and Eberhard, Tucker Principal, Dr. Elaine McNeil-Jamai, Pierce Principal, Dr. Karen Spalding, and I, and Milton High School Principal James Jett serve. And it's interesting you said that, Dr. Donahue, because at my opening retreat with the administrators, one of the, we tapped on all of these initiatives, and it was very poignant to me when Dr. Spalding said how much she enjoyed it because she felt that the talent within the district was being recognized. So the message is, I don't know if I had shared that, very subtle, that the parent representatives who all have expertise, as Chairman Walker does in this field, knew that there was talent within the district to tap. And so the message was very positive from Dr. Karen Spalding, who gave the highlights of what's happening and where we're going to go to the administrative team. So a positive beginning.
Great. Ms. Eberhard?
I just stepped in onto the committee this past few weeks, and I've learned a lot in the short time that I've been involved in it. That's what I was going to say, that for me, that piece is very impressive, working with Dr. Spalding and Dr. McNeil, and Mr. Jett wasn't there for parts of the summer, and the three parent. That amount of knowledge and expertise and just the way they think about things is very impressive. It makes me think over and over how lucky I am to be a part of this school district.
But to give
And
them
grateful
the
to be part of
opportunity
this. Yeah, it's
is,
wonderful.
you know,
Yeah,
is
very
huge.
impressive. Yeah.
Thank you. Facility Subcommittee report is me.
As you.
We are very close to being done with the comprehensive facilities assessment that we set out to accomplish. As you might recall, the firm that we engaged is Drummy Roseanne Anderson. They had done quite a bit of work for us in the building of the schools, so they're quite familiar to Dr. Pavlicek, and he is to them. And what they did this summer, after the schools were largely closed, or except for the high school, did walkthroughs and looked at all of the major systems, all of the conditions of the facilities. So very shortly, probably within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have a comprehensive report that we'll be able to share with you, which will be invaluable for the prioritization discussion. But basically, what we'll end up with are capital plans for the next 20 years that we can use in our planning both within the schools and for the town. And I think that our strategy was that at the same time that we're talking about fire stations and other major capital projects, that we need to get the school's major capital projects on the radar and in the town meeting discussion that's going on. So this will be incredibly helpful in that regard. Ms. Varela?
So, again, because I'm newer to the facilities subcommittee, in the sense that, to confirm for me that it is, just like we are consolidated with Bill Ritchie for the town, this committee has reps of the town to handle all building issues, or is it just the schools?
No, so there's a school committee facilities subcommittee, the charge for which is to create a comprehensive facilities management plan for the schools.
Okay,
That was a charge that was actually created over 10 years ago,
right,
but never accomplished. So I'm pleased to say we're about to accomplish that. There's a capital improvement planning committee at the town level that the selectmen appoint, which has representatives from the schools, Bill Ritchie, the library, that is charged with creating the capital plan, the 5-year capital plan for the town. So obviously there's some overlap there. But this particular, our facility subcommittee is focused on the schools.
And so, just as a follow-up, so when you have this report, like you said, that's gonna conclude, will that have recommendations or address the issues of, again, I know that we spoke at our retreat of a short-term recommendation about preschool and potential concern we have about overcrowding because of the large population of children that are enrolling every year in the school.
The two answers are no,
Okay,
but we might be able to engage Drummy to help us answer that question.
Okay.
But that's not within the scope of what they're
of
doing
this,
here.
right. Okay.
Assistant
To
Superintendent
Ms. Varela's point, when Mr. Winchester and Glenn Pavlicek served on the school building committee that had how many meetings, Glenn?
No,
Thousands.
in the thousands.
Mr. Winchester was the chairperson of the school building committee, the most fortunate thing that ever happened to the town of Milton and the Milton Public Schools, said to me at the end, don't ever let the schools get in this situation again. And to me, when I see facilities subcommittee, I'm your biggest supporter, because by having Drummy come in and come up with a plan, we'll never get in the situation that 6 schools had to be renovated. And I'll take every opportunity I can until somebody stops me, that I have to say that the residents and the children in the town of Milton are the most fortunate in the state. $140 million school building project and an $8 million donation in 6 schools that are renovated to new, that I say to people, you can't tell what's renovated and what's new. I have to be reminded that the Collycott is the only new school. So with that came, as we remind ourselves, all of the heating systems will be on the same day needing attention, because we're not on a 5-year or 10-year plan. But we are so fortunate and to have children and students learning in well-ventilated and lighted classrooms. I know this group knows it, and staff that sees these facilities and opportunities for fields and gyms and classrooms, labs, it's amazing. So this probably is the most important work that's done, to have a plan, and because, as they'll quickly say, we're educators, and so we need the experts in facilities to come up with a plan for us on how to maintain what are the town's most valuable properties.
Absolutely.
So appreciate it.
I'm going to defer approval of minutes, and I'm also going to defer executive session, as several people have mentioned. Member Bagley Jones had another commitment and asked if we could defer any executive session discussions until our next meeting. So I'm going to go with that request. Next meeting agenda items. Ms. Varela.
It might be too tight for next meeting, but I didn't know if there could be, I'd like to revisit, or, I know Chairman Walker, this was a concern of yours too. Where are we with the Edline situation slash, Google, moving completely to Google Docs? I know that your director, I don't know if the terminology, as director of technology, or, she did a great presentation last year, but again, as a school committee member and as.
No, the timing is perfect.
Yeah, so if
We'll
we
have
could
it.
have that, I would really like to know
And-
where we're at with all that.
I
Okay.
think that's a great idea. I'd like to do that at the next meeting.
Mhm.
If there are no other additions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Donahue, seconded by
Ms. Varela.
Varela. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.